Yes, this is the day that the Lord has made. We shall rejoice and be glad in it. Can you imagine? It's another Wednesday night when we come to you through open talk. You talk or I talk, or who hear who. It is time to talk, and open talk is founded or based on the Word of God. Our foundation is the Word of God, and the aim is to bring you information, to bring in correction, to bring in reproof, to bring in education, to open up your eyes to things that maybe you have not seen or which you just assume. So we come to you from that perspective and asking you, participate in what we are doing. Be part of the conversation. Every time we have brought guests, and the guests have been tremendous. They have been tremendous, given us information and helped us a lot. And again, tonight, we have yet another guest. This one is a special guest. Is a special guest because this one I have known since before she was born. This one I've known since before she was born. She's a pastor's kid, and not only that, but she's also a lawyer, a qualified lawyer, an advocate of the High Court. And we are going to talk things that maybe have been bothering you, maybe things that you do not know concerning law. And we want to talk about land, because in Kenya, land is land. Everybody's looking for land, and we want to look at that. Now, I want to introduce my guest to you. I'll just give you her name, and then I'll let her add whatever is on top. This is none other than our pastor's daughter, our pastor from Deliverance Church, Wanye Road, in Dagoretti. That's Bill Kithinji. So we are talking with Milka Kithinji Kimani. Welcome, Milka. It's so good to see you. I'm so proud of you. I can see you from 19 long ago like this, and growing, and now you are an advocate of the High Court. This is the blessing of the Lord, yes, that maketh rich and addeth no sorrow. But now it's no longer that small girl I used to see. This is somebody's wife and a mother.
Yes.
Tell us about yourself. Tell us what I did not say. What law you studied and all that.
Thank you very much, Bishop Mark. It is a great pleasure to be here. I'm very humbled that you have invited me to come. What an honor and a privilege just to give back to the people who have helped me grow. May God bless you. As you have heard, my name is Milka Kimani. Well, Milka Kithinji Kimani. Kithinji is my father, Kimani is my husband, and it's a great pleasure to be here. I'm saved. I love Jesus as my personal savior. I am an advocate of the High Court of Kenya. I have been in practice for 11 years now, and I'm trusting the Lord for the remainder of it. And it's a great pleasure to be here. I'm a mother of 2, and I serve in church, and I'm excited to be here and answer your land questions today.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you so very much, Milka. Before we go to the land question, where do you go to church?
So we go to Deliverance Church, Wanye Close, Solid Rock Center. We call ourselves Solid Rockers. That's the name of the local church.
Yes.
So we serve under Reverend Bill and Jemima Kithinji. That's where we minister.
Wow.
Yes.
Oh, it's always a joy for a parent to serve together with the children.
True.
Because there is a point that we need to change or to prove that pastors' kids are not thick in the head.
True.
They don't carry porridge. Because a lot of people think pastors have porridge in the head,
yes,
their kids have porridge in the head, and all they think is their offering. Of course, we know that the offering has helped us,
yes,
in educate our children, in feeding according to the Word of God.
Yes.
Because according to the Word is that he who preaches the gospel must live or should live by that gospel.
True.
So out of that, I'm proud that we can have an advocate of the High Court.
It's a great pleasure. It's a great testimony, actually, that God does not leave his servants, and that they're working, in the vineyard is not in vain. Yes, and that he remembers them. So I'm excited to be here.
Wow.
Yes.
And what does Mr. Kimani do?
So Mr. Kimani is a banker. So he works with Absa Bank.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, great.
That's what he
Great. How old are your kids, Milka?
Joshua is 7 years old. Joanna is 4.
Oh, 7 and 4.
Yes.
Wow. Those are my grandkids. I have a multitude of grandkids.
Yes, you do.
A multitude of grandkids.
Yes, we do.
And I'm so glad. Now, we are talking to viewers
Yes.
who may be going through some land problems and who want to buy land and all that. Now, and you know, here in Kenya, we have a culture of trust.
True.
We have a culture of trust. I trust you, you trust me. So that land is mine. You pay for it, and that happens.
True.
Now, what contracts do we need to think about, or are contracts important when it comes to buying land?
Thank you very much for that question. I'd start by saying that it is important, yes, to trust one another, but it is also equally important to put things in writing. Because a number of the disputes that are in court today is because we had a discussion. We went to a cafe, had a discussion. You took me to some land, you showed me. You asked me to give you a deposit, and I did. And you showed me a copy of a title, which you asked me to go search. And I didn't quite think there was anything wrong. I mean, the search came out clean, but the Kenya we live in today is not the same. People are no longer as trustworthy as they portray themselves. So there is a need, before you actually give out a deposit, that we put things in writing. Because then you commit the vendor, and you're also showing commitment, saying, I want to bind myself. Now, when we put these contracts in place, what it does, it articulates directly or very clearly what the duties of the parties would be, how we are going to terminate that contract in the event we don't agree. For instance, if the search does not come out, as having you, the vendor, as an owner, then I am very free to terminate the contract. Or if I find out that you've taken out a loan, which you did not disclose, so you want me to buy the land, and as soon as I buy it, the bank would take it up. You see, those are things that we can actually articulate in the contract and say, once I search, and I'm satisfied, then as I sign this contract, this would be my obligations towards you, and this would be obligations towards me, because I have already done, the contract then puts those things in writing. We're saying, this is the limit, this is what we are going to do. And in the event that I had already given you money, then the contract, because it's written, I can always use a document as my evidence before the court to get back my money, which I have given you. So it's important for Kenyans to, and more so in the house of God, for that, yes, we are believers, we trust God, we raise our hands, we are chasing demons, but hey, can we put things down in writing? Because the contracts then actually articulate what our intention was and how we can actually terminate that contract in the event we don't agree.
Okay, now we have talked.
Yes.
And I want to buy land from you.
Yes.
And we go to the same church. At what point do we write a contract? Do we just talk and then we say, let's write a contract? Or do I go see the land and then write a contract? Or do I do the searches? And what do you mean by search?
So after we have spoken, and I would advise, after we speak, go see the land. There are people who have bought land out of paper. I gave you a title, but there is no land actually. Go see the land. Ask for the title or a document which you can use. It could be a share certificate, it could be a letter of allotment, whatever it is that you can actually go and carry out a search with in the relevant body. So there's an authority that must have issued a document, or a company that must have issued a document saying this, we own this land and we sold it to person X. So visit the land. Once you visited, ask for a document, carry out a search. If satisfied, if the facts there are consistent with what you're seeing, with what is on the ground, then now let's formulate a contract. But there are a number of issues that have come up actually of late that now we have to be very careful. It's not just the search that is sufficient. We need to go further and beyond. Is it a land reserve? would you be buying the airport land in the name of I am living in a very good area, only for you to build and the next morning the airport authority comes pulling down your house? Is it a royal reserve? Has a Ministry of Physical Planning and Development put that land aside as land that they would want to come back and develop later? So it's not just saying I have gone to lands, because a number of people have actually gone to lands, carried out the search. What they didn't know was that the person who was selling to them, even if it's a brother or sister in the Lord, was working with somebody in lands. So that whenever the search is put in, okay, the search will come out in their name. So you want to go to the bank and say, I'm buying this land, and you want the bank to give you money. So the bank asks for the copy of the title, they go carry out a search, and they find that name is not corresponding to what you are telling them. So when you go back to this person is when you'll realize they'll be saying, no, that's not the issue. So whenever you see those kind of telltale signs, you need to be very careful. Slow down, because most probably what is happening is this person is working in cohorts with somebody within lands, to defraud you of your money, of your hard-earned money. So it is not as straightforward. Well, the search could be one, but we also want to, when you go on the ground, what would happen is the neighbors would tell you, ini shamba ya Bishop Mark, because they've seen you go, put a fence, maybe you are there planting something, they know you. So they'd be saying, yes, this is a shamba. Is he selling it to you? That would give you an assurance that actually he's the owner. So let us move from the conversations, amen, asante, and you're easily convinced because this person maybe is a praise and worship leader and they're selling you land. So you think everything is fine. Let us be more diligent in terms of carrying out the searches. And when I talk about a search is, you take the document, you go to lands office, you give out, you tell them, nataka mu confirm, hii shamba ni ya huyu mtu. So they will confirm it. Now the system has changed a little bit. It's online. Especially if you're in Nairobi, it's online. Outside Nairobi, because the digitization is still ongoing, it will take some time. But if you're within Nairobi, it's online. So once you carry out your search, you get into your e-citizens and you go to the lands and the housing portal and search. It will just give you, it's very clear. Then it's very easy for you to get it. After a while, they'll send you back the report telling you exactly who owns the land. So it's important that we go beyond the general gentleman's agreement and carry out and do our due diligence. Yes.
Wow, I think that is very, very, very helpful because, but we want, somebody is asking, is this search, can it be done by any lay person, or do I have to get an agent or a lawyer or somebody to do the search, or can I just walk to the lands office? Now, if I'm outside Nairobi, just walk to the lands office and search this. And so, who do I see when I go there?
Okay, thank you, sir. If you're outside Nairobi, ideally you'd be going to the respective registry, land registry. At the counter, they would, once you get there, there's an information desk. You just inquire, I'd want to carry out a search, and they'll direct you. They're very helpful. So they direct you, they'd give you the forms to fill, and once you filled them, then you lodge them. If you're within Nairobi and its environs, then it would mean you have to do it online on your e-citizen. Now, in an instance where you do not know how to carry out the search on e-citizen, we have very many cyber cafes where people which offer this kind of services. So they'd be telling you, we do passports, we do a number of applications. So if you go and request that I want to carry out a land search and you have the copy of the title, it's a very easy search, because they'll create an account for you if you don't have one, and then fill in the details, and over time then you can go back again and check if the response has come. So there is always a way out. One should not feel limited because maybe you don't know how to log into the e-citizen. There are people who can assist you. So if you go to a cyber cafe, you'd always get assisted. If your children are older, maybe they are technically savvy, you can ask them. They would always help you. But there's a way out. Just ask. The issue is ask. If you ask in the challenge, this is what I want to do, then you'll always get help. Yeah.
Okay, you've talked about writing a contract.
Yes.
Is there a frame that a contract should have this, or can we just sit with the person selling me the land and say, I so and so have this day decided to sell this piece of land, parcel number and all that, ID, PIN and all that on a piece, and tear it from an exercise book and put it in my pocket and call it a contract? Or must it be put in a certain way?
So depending on the parties who are engaging, they could as well do the tearing of a paper from an exercise book. But what would encourage parties is to, once you have written your terms, which I will go through on a paper, try and get it typed out so that both parties can sign and have witnesses. So what are the contents of that contract? It has to mention the parties. Either it's Mr. A who is selling to Mr. B. These are our ID numbers. These are our PO box numbers. This is a property we are selling. This is how big it is. Because at times people buy something, you didn't declare how big it was. When the title comes out and when you are taken to the ground, you thought you were buying a quarter, you actually bought an eighth. So it's important to put those small details there. Then also put the sum in terms of what is the value of the land. Am I buying land for 3 million? So the 3 million as a purchase price should be in the contract. What are the terms of payment? What is the deposit? Am I doing 10%? The law says 10% minimum. So am I doing something extra? Am I giving more money? So that should be articulated. The balance, how do I want to pay it? Okay? Then the time frame, because the law gives you 90 days to complete the purchase. Now, what is the time frame? How long do you want to take to pay, for us to be in this engagement as I pay for the land? So I would look at it from, parties are at liberty to make it as short and as long as they want. It could be more than the 3 months, where you could be saying, I'm taking a loan, or I'm going to be using my salary for the next 6 months to pay. So you articulate that in the contract. Then we want to also ask ourselves, what law is applicable? You have to say the law of Kenya is applicable. So that if there is a dispute, we know we can go to the Kenyan courts. Then we also discuss termination of that contract. In the event one party fails to meet their obligation, how do we terminate it? It is important to have a termination clause, very important, because then it enables parties to know how to get out of that contract. And finally, what is the responsibility of the vendor? What is the responsibility of the buyer? The responsibility of the vendor is to prepare all completion documents and say that upon receipt of 1, 2, 3 things, the deposit, and I don't know whatever else would have decided within the contract, I will give you the completion documents. Okay? Or when you have paid me the full sum, I will give you the completion documents. So the person buying would have, if they have an advocate, they would have a list saying, these are the completion documents we want. The original title, we want copies of your ID, copies of your PIN, your photograph, your passport size photos in triplicate. Would want you to sign the land consent board in the event it is land that is still agricultural. Would want you to give us receipts. For instance, if it's land that is in municipality, you need to give us a rates clearance certificate to show that you've paid, you don't have any obligation. So we list all these things there, and they should be in the contract. So when you're signing, these are the agreed terms. If possible, also get a witness. Each party should have a witness. An advocate could act as a witness. Your friend could act as, your husband, your wife could act as a witness. Let them sign as a witness that this is what we have agreed, so that then we can start the engagement.
Now, at what point do I take possession of the land that I am buying? Is there a law that says you will take possession at this time, or it is upon agreement?
So vacant possession is given when the terms, generally when the terms have been met out of custom and practice. But the parties could agree otherwise. Assuming you're buying a school and the next term starts in July, I think, and now we have signed the agreement, I've given you a deposit, I need the students, I need to advertise and I need students in by July. So it could be one of the clauses in our contract saying, okay, as we get into this, we agree that I will give you vacant possession. I'll move out my things so that you can occupy and start using, even as you pay, even as you complete the deal. So it's subject to what parties would agree. But ideally, as soon as everything, especially payment of the purchase price has been made, you should give vacant possession. With the timeline, remember the set timeline is 3 months for any legal transaction. So if, not unless you've extended it, if it's within the 3 months, at the end of 3 months, you should give vacant possession. So if you had things that you had put there and you want to go with them, your tanks, whatever it is, you remove them. Within the 3 months, the property should be empty, or as you have agreed as parties.
Yeah, there's that tendency of 10% in 90 days. You pay 10%, then within 90 days you should be able to complete.
Yes.
Is that final, or is it extendable? Can we agree instead of 90, I do 120, or is it 10%, 90 days?
So, as I thank you, Bishop, for that question, because many people might end up feeling bound by the 10%. Assuming at the point of signing the contract, you have more than 10%, and we agree, I tell you, in fact, I can raise 40%. Allow me to pay the 40% and then pay you the 60 within the 90 days, or I tell you, I'll not be able to raise it within the 90 days, I'll raise it within the 120 days. It's an issue of agreement. If we have agreed, then that is okay. We articulate it in the contract. Let's put it down, because then that gives us a guideline. So we'll be saying every first of month, before the first of the next month, I should have this sum of money. So we'd have put all those details within the contract to enable parties to agree, and to understand each other. So there is that leeway. It is not cast in stone, but there has to be a minimum 10%. There has to be a time frame, a minimum time frame, 3 months. If you have all the money, and you will tell me, in fact, I can pay you 90%, the 10% is when we have removed my things, fine. And I want to finish within 1 month, okay, no problem. You have the money, let's move on. Let's finish. Yes, so it is subject to the parties, how they would agree. And that room is there. Okay. Yes.
Now, you talked about a school.
Yes.
I'm selling a school. About selling a school.
Yes.
Now there's this school that I'm selling, and someone says I'm going to buy it and gives me the 10% or even 20%, and I allow them to take possession. So the kids are now coming. They are brought in the banco beds and all that. The kids are learning, and after 90 days, nothing has come up. A year, nothing has come up.
Okay.
And now they have advertised this is a school. How do I get my school back?
Oh, that would be such an unfortunate position. I pray it doesn't happen. But in that instance, then I would ask you, where is the contract that you signed between the parties? Because then that would articulate, it should be telling me that we had agreed within 90 days, this is what we are going to do. They should have paid this, they would have done this. So that now we'd be writing a demand letter, and also that there should be a termination clause giving time frame. That at the point of breach, because that would be a breach of contract, at the point of breach, then these are the actions we are going to take. The first one being that would give you notice, a 21-day notice perhaps, and tell you that you have failed to meet your obligations. Kindly, could you meet your obligations? There's a lapse in terms of payment, and you have not said anything. If they don't respond, we write a second letter. Now, within the termination clause, it should also give you the right to repossess what is yours. So that one morning you can walk in and say, I'm back. I'm willing to give you back your money. I'm going to take 10% out of it, but you kindly take notice. Please pack your things, remove the kids from the school, get out. So, you could find maybe they'd run to court, get an injunction, but ideally, because there's a document guiding what the process would be, then we would be following the terms of that document in terms of how do we want to settle this matter. So you can repossess, assuming, let's make it more juicer, they had paid 80%. And they have delayed with the 20% for the 1.5 years. So we want to get in and say, please, we need a school back. My question to you, or ideally, actually, what usually happens is that the vendor used the money. So you don't have that 80% in full. That when it came, you put it into a different project. So you really want to remove these people, but you think, well, where am I going to get those millions? I don't have them. I put them in a different project. So subject to us saying that this contract is, will be guided by the Kenyan law, we'd go back and now we have already served the notices, we have demanded for payment, they're not responding, we file a suit in court under the Environment and Land Court and say, okay, so we have two options. You can use the Environment and Land Court, or if it's specifically land, clear land. If it's an issue of payment of a debt, because that would be more of a debt, then we'd go to the commercial court, to get our matter adjudicated there. So there is that recourse and that is why it's important, we go back to the contract, that we have to have a roadmap, let's call it roadmap, of how we want to engage. So that when we start to disengage, how do we sort out these differences? What is the best way forward? Where are we going? To who and why? Okay, to get our redress. So there's always a way forward. I know court when people hear about court, it takes time, yes, but if your facts are correct and everything is articulated well before the court, then you should get your recompense in that sense, yes.
Okay. Well, I've had people use a terminology, adverse possession. What does that mean? What is that adverse possession?
So adverse possession is, you could also call it the squatter's right.
Squatter's right?
Yeah, the squatter's right. So in layman's terms, what it means is that, assuming you have an acre of land which you bought when you were younger, and you're saying, when I want to retire, I am going to build my dream home. So you know it's there. Once in a while you pass by. But for the last, let's say 10, 15 years, you've not gone. When you call the neighbors, they say, no, tuko wazima huku hakuna shida. But you've not gone to the land. However, within that period, somebody came and put up a structure. Because he's been saying, this is free land. There is no one who's coming. Put up one structure, put up more structures. So there are many of them. They fill the 1 acre. And because you haven't gone, you didn't know, or even when you go, you don't react. You're in shock. Unajua ni shamba yangu? They're like, no, isi shamba yako. So they're quite hostile. They're openly hostile. They're not hiding it. They're telling you, don't step here. We are going to harm you. And they're also in possession. Because when you're talking about adverse possession, they have to be in possession. So they're on your land. It's not cows that you can chase away. It's that they have built structures. They are actually there. Now, how it works is that if for 12 years, from the date they got in there, you have never complained, you have never told them move, you have not used methods to disrupt that occupancy, they have a right to go to the court and say, we want you to give us this land as ours. We have been resident here for 12 years. And as such, we have a right. Okay? So, in simple terms, that is what adverse possession would be. That it's somebody who is not the owner. He doesn't have legitimate ownership. He doesn't have a title to it. But he's in possession. He lives there. He's ameweka vegetable garden. Ameweka fence.
Oh.
Okay?
So even if I just told him you can be living here while I am going to America, when I come back, you leave. After 12 years, they can claim possession of the land.
Yes, they can. Because you see, you're not outrightly telling them, get out. It's different. when I'm going to America and I need somebody to take care of that land, and I say, okay, can somebody help me? And somebody tells kuna kijana, wacha tutakupatia, and I come and I tell them, kaa hapa, angalia shamba, look, take care of the shamba. That's a very different arrangement. And like when you find somebody on your land, you're not telling them exit. You're telling them, okay, you can stay. In fact, now I'm traveling. Let me go sort a few business issues and I come back. That's not how we handle it. It's that you have, because when you do that, you're actually affirming their right. You're telling me, car. So, indeed, you have a right. So if he goes to court, he says, alinipata, hakunifukuza, hakucomplain, alisema ni sawa, nikaka. So you see, 12 years later, you come to say, get out of my land, but I have a right.
Wow.
Okay.
That's not a fair right.
In fact, you see, when this policy was being introduced, it was to take care of instances, or we can look at it from this point of view, where we see there are people who have a lot of land that lies bare. They're not using it. And then you'd find that the available land that is there, because it's so scarce, the prices are so expensive, so the prices shoot up. So if you want land, you have to use a lot of millions to actually get land. So the essence was to try and curb this, you having too much land, which you're not using. Now there's been an amendment to that law in the UK, which we haven't implemented here, so that in the UK, if the owner goes to court and files not the owner, if the squatter goes to court and files for title, he says, I want title of this land, and there's an objection from the owner, then he will not get that right. But here we find it, that's why we're having so many cases, because we have not introduced that aspect of the law, because we are now having a challenge where you have to prove how you actually chased this man out, what actions you took. You have to have documentation to show. I called the police, we went, we broke down the houses, I did this, I went, I filed a suit, I did the other. Because you see, the claim is, I've been here for 12 years. So it just needs to be above 12 years. And in some instances, the court has actually granted people land here in Kenya that belongs to others. Just on the basis of adverse possession. You had a plot at the shopping center, you are working in town, the plot is in your township, back home, you've never done anything about it. One day you passed by, you saw there was a kiosk, you didn't think much of it, you didn't tell that person to move, you said, I'll come deal with it. You retire, you go back home, you say, I want my plot. And the person says, no, this is not yours, it's mine. I've been here in occupation for this long. So you go to court and the court rules in his favor and not yours. So I think it's just that we need to be more vigilant about our rights. Yeah.
In that case, in Kenya, what would we consider as proof of ownership?
So, dependent on the regime or first and foremost, it would be the title from the lands, Ministry of Lands. There are other situations where you have letters of allotment that have been issued specifically if it is land that has been given or that was being allocated by the county governments. So if you have that letter of allotment and you have met all the procedures that were required, then ideally that should be your land, that should be your proof of title. But the basic one that the government would guarantee is a title. Because you're saying the government is your guarantee. Go check the records, they're the ones who've given me this title. So this proves that I'm the owner of this land. Now, there are these big groups that are, it could be a circle, it could be a women's group, it could be a chama that buy land. They're not able to process the titles as quickly as possible because you could find not everyone is paying at the same rate. So what they give you is a share certificate, to show that you have ownership in that sense. So if you have that you can prove that this is a share certificate that I'm getting from this property, then ideally, it should enable you to prove your ownership of that land. So just depending on how this land is being, what the vendor has as a document of proof. So
yeah, I'm still on that.
Yeah.
On the squatter. I have the title.
Yes.
I've been paying rates.
Yes.
Although I don't visit the land. This squatter has come and is living there. He's lived there for 12 and a half years. And for all those years, I have been paying the rates and I have the title. Then how does he end up getting my land? And I have the proof of ownership.
So let me articulate it this way. Let me give you the 3 conditions that have to be met for you to say, okay, for us to contest against adverse possession. 1, you must have occupied the land to the exclusion of others. So he's occupying that land to your exclusion. You're not the one in occupation. He's the one on the ground. True? You've been paying rates and everything else, but you're not on the land. Number 2, the occupation must not be without the consent of the owner. So when you were going to the US, you said, we kaa tu hapo, nikirudi nitadeal na wewe. You didn't see that there was a problem. So hujamfukuza? Hujamwambia kijana hii ni kwangu, toka? But you're continuously paying for the rates. You fly in, you fly out, you forgot. Actually, you don't remember that. You just remember, lipeni rates. Ile shamba nitatafuta time niende, but you're not going. But the 3rd thing would be that it must be continuous and uninterrupted. So for these 12 years, you never went, broke down his house, pulled down the fence, kicked him out. There is no evidence for that. He was continuously in occupation. So he's gotten married, he has 2 children or 5. You know, he's built, in fact, even people know they have a name for it, Kwajenga. Hapo Kwajenga. Now it has a new name because they know that's where they find him. So if those 3 conditions can be met, then adverse possession would be proved.
Wow. I think that's a dangerous one.
Yes, it is. It's actually very dangerous.
Yes.
And that's why we'd encourage, we often encourage the people who consult us that, yes, you have land. It could be a big chunk, it could be a small chunk. Do something. Do something. Don't just say, ile shamba yangu. You look at the title in the house and you're very happy. You lift it unto God. No. Do something. Go put a fence. Go put a toilet.
Or plant trees.
Plant trees. Show ownership. Be in occupation.
Now, I have planted trees.
Yes.
Before going to America. Before going to America, I have planted trees. They are tiny, and I've left this man to be taking care of the trees. I'm coming back after 15 years. Now the trees are tall, and they are ready to be turned into timber. Then he says it is his land. And by the time I left, I planted the trees.
Yes, I know you planted the trees. But when you found him there, what are you the one who brought him or you found him?
I left him there.
But it's not you who brought him. You found him.
No. When I was going, I needed somebody to stay on my land.
Okay, that's a
so I put him there. And now I have gone and have come back. And he's saying, no, I was talking to another advocate and they told me.
So it's good to get into those kind of arrangements. But please, can we put it in writing? So that our terms are clear. That Njenga, nimekuleta hapa, ulinde hii shamba, I will be paying you a salary. It's not free. I will be paying you a salary for this amount until the day I'm back. Have a sign yeye, wewe usign. Get a witness. Sawa? Mwambie kaa. Siku ile atajaribu kuleta advance possession, all we'll need to do is to prove these were the terms. It's not about advance. I've been paying him. So he's not been staying there free. No. Is that I'm aware of what is going on. And in fact, when I come back, I'm coming back to harvest my timber and now put a structure there or have a project. These are the terms. You see, that is a very different setting. Yes.
So kama yeye ndiye alijilete, mimi nimekwenda Marekani, nobody the condos are eating around the shamba, then somebody comes and puts up a ramshackle and starts living there. I come back after 15 years. Now this one can claim that land.
Yes. Adverse possession.
That's very serious.
It is. It is. So we cannot lay, you see, the law protects you as you fight for your rights. You cannot say it is my right because I have a title. It's that I have a title and there's something I have been doing. Okay? There's something I'm doing. There's evidence. This is the improvement I've done on the land. After a while, I put trees. After a while, I dug a well. After a while, I put a toilet. So when this person is trying to say this is land, he needs to explain who has done. Can he prove? Because then now it would be him proving against you. And if he doesn't have that evidence.
Wow. Wow. Now, let's talk about the rates. Which parcels of land attract rates in Kenya?
So the parcels that are found within municipalities. So if you are within the Nairobi metropolitan, when COVID started, the government increased the metropolitan area. You know, it was saying from this side to this side, were expanded. So we're saying some part of Limuru, some part of, it was quite big. So if your land falls within that area, then you're within the municipality of Nairobi. What the effect is that you would be paying for rates. So it's a yearly levy that you're giving to that municipal county for providing certain services to you. Part would be roads, sewerage, lighting, street lights, so you're paying for that once a year. If your land is outside the municipality, then would deem it to be agricultural land. So you would not need to pay any rates.
Okay.
Yes, because that is farming land. That is land that should be used to generate food for the country, for subsistence.
And we have seen a lot of that land, which was agricultural,
yes,
now becoming residential. What is the process or the procedure?
So,
or do I just buy a land where they were planting wheat and I put up my house?
No. You can't do that because you would need to go through a process where we are saying, which is called change of user. So change of user, you'd go to the relevant municipal county government within that area and indicate that this property that I bought used to, maybe it's 100 acres, that where people would plant wheat. So you have bought it and now you want to change. And you're saying, I want to put a gated community, holiday homes and things like that. You'd have to get those approvals from the county government, from their survey department. So it takes a process, but they have to give you that approval. Once they give you the approval, that is when you can now come and build those residential houses, turn it now into that commercial plot, and then build the residential houses.
Okay.
Yes.
And do you then start paying rates? Or?
Yes. Because you see now it would change. In the you would be paying rates for that specific area. The other farms around you may not. But for you, because there'd be a specific service the county government would have to give you, for instance, sewerage, you'd have to meet their standards, or you'd have to get into an agreement. How does this work?
Even when the residents have dug their own cistern tanks?
The thing is, you have changed the use of the land. So when you change the use of the land, the county government will give you a number of requirements that you have to meet. Requirements which are in line with the regulations that have been laid down concerning that kind of I want to use it like a zone. Let me use the word zone, because you'd be saying this particular area, the 100 acres, is now commercial. So commercial is different from residential, isn't it? Because you'd be selling that land or those houses, and stamp duty would have to be paid, meaning the county government would be making revenue out of it. They'd be telling you this is the value, they have to come and do valuation. So a number of things would have changed down the road, and essentially affect the manner in which you deal with that property. So you'll pay rates. Yes.
Wow. Okay. Now let us think about the family.
Yes.
About spouses. What are spouses spousal rights as far as land is concerned?
Okay.
Or the ownership?
Thank you very much for that question. Now, spousal rights are rights of ownership, especially in property, is where we are saying that as a wife or as a husband, you have a right to own property that you have purchased during the subsistence of your marriage. And another new law is more is favorable in the sense that it's now even taking into account your particular contribution. Previously, at the point of determining what is matrimonial law in the event of a separation, everything would be divided half-half. But that's not the case today. It's that the court would be looking and saying, what did you contribute? What did you contribute to buy this car? What did you contribute to buy this house? And then now we share it in that sense. So it will be more of tenancy in common, in the sense that yes, both our names are on the title, but even if they're on the title, everyone has a share in terms of contribution. Okay. So when you're looking at these spousal rights, the other aspect would be that when you want to sell your land, if married, you'd have to get an affidavit from your husband. Perhaps it's just your name that is on the land. And you might have purchased it before you got married. But now that you're married, your husband or your wife has to give an affidavit saying that they are aware you're selling it. You have not coerced them, you've not forced them to sell, to sign that affidavit, and that it is not their matrimonial home. Okay? Essentially, it was just to protect spouses from losing their matrimonial homes, in the sense it had become too rampant. One morning you wake up and you find somebody at your door telling you, move out of my house. Your house? How is it your house? Only to find that either your husband or your wife got into an agreement and sold the property. Behind your back, you didn't know. So that morning you're being chased out of the house, and now it becomes a legal tussle in terms of trying to get the court to intervene so that the house can be restored to you, and that you are not aware. So to avoid all those things, the court now requires that a spousal consent is, an affidavit of spousal consent is signed. Okay.
How would you define a matrimonial home in a layman's language?
So a matrimonial home in layman's language is where you live, mama, baba, watoto.
Sasa kama ni matrimonio huyu kijana ameoa huyu msichana, si msichana amekuja kwa huyu kijana. So does the house belong to both of them or to the young man?
It belongs to both of them. Isn't that where they're living? Both of them are living there, isn't it?
They are living there.
Yeah, so that
she did not contribute anything in the building.
But you see, the court doesn't just make an assumption like that. It will ask you, but where were you living? So it will ask you to show a history. Umeishi wapi? Tukasema tuliishi. First we started in Ngong. Then God gave us money, we moved to Kilimani. Then God gave us more money, we moved to Runda. So that's where we stay. Now, who's been buying? That's not the issue. The issue is the family has been staying there. The children, the wife. So with that abode would term it as the matrimonial home.
Okay.
Let's look at it from a point of, God forbid, one of them dies. If it's a husband who dies, he's left the family in the Runda home, there will be the wife will have a life interest in that home. Life meaning she can use it until her death. She can't own it. She can't sell it. She'll use it until her death and hold it in trust for the children. So at the point of her demise, then the property is bequeathed equally to the children.
Not to her her brothers.
If they didn't have children, we will not start with her side. The law says we go to the husband's side. We start, is the father alive? If the father is alive, then he's given. If the father is not there, the mother. So we exhaust the father's side, the husband's side, that's what I mean. Then we come back to her side. Yeah.
In this Kenya of ours, there is a lot of fraud.
Yes.
As far as land is concerned.
Yes.
Now, what documents are will easily be manipulated, and how do we go about against that? It's also to keep your possession of your land as far as sales is concerned.
Okay. So fraud is a true reality, and it is not. It does not come close as fraud. Fraud is even in the church. Yes. Someone tells you, "Give me, I'll give you back," and they don't. So, but now when you come to land specifically, remember we spoke about the title document.
Yeah.
Being that document that actually shows ownership. Now, if what people have done in the past and are currently doing is that they would say this title document belongs to me, so it has my name. But when we go indoors, we find when I carry out a search, it shows somebody else's name. So some of the documents that can actually be changed are title documents. So if somebody tells you they want to buy your land, be careful who it is, find out who they are, because at times we give out these copies, they go in, they work in cohorts with somebody else, find out which file it is and everything, change, in fact, even the green card, put in one that has your name, go sell the land. So when you come, or when you actually want to do something on the land, you find somebody else there. So one of the documents that can be tampered with is your title document. It has to be somebody who you know is not, who just wants an interest of your land, and thereafter they would want to use it for something different. We have to be very sure that they are serious about the transaction, 1. 2, the share certificates that we're talking about. 3, the letters of allotment. All these documents that show rights of title, you know, because some of the cases that we are hearing about where they are issuing titles now is that you'd find there are different kind of receipts. So in fact, some of them even have different colors. As simple, you know, things that you've paid for, you've actually given money, you were given a receipt only to be told this is not a receipt, and you paid the money and they gave you a receipt that has their name. Okay? There are issues about the beacon certificates, where they tell you this land has been divided, this is a beacon. So then they give you a certificate for it. Now when we have all these documents and parcel file numbers and things like that, remember when we started our discussion, we're saying subject to the authority or the authority that is giving out that document, go back to that authority. If it's a title, go back to lands. If it's a beacon certificate, go to survey. Ask for the map. Confirm. How does this, what's a drawing? Without survey map, go to lands. Ask, okay, this is a survey map I have. This is, maybe you even have the copy of the title, this is it. Please can you confirm? Because what you're trying to make sure is that indeed, that is your property, to avoid being defrauded of your hard-earned money. Yeah. So subject to the document you've been given, go back to the institution. If it was an old chama, if it was a women's group, the offices are there. Go back, find out.
What do you do when you go to do the search?
Yes.
And you find even the green card has been changed?
So when in such an instance, it's important that you see the land registrar. Assuming I'm the one selling, and I gave out a title, I actually have details, even stamp duty receipts of payment. And now, the person I gave my title to go search has found somebody else, another name. We go back to the land registrar, report the matter. If possible, if you can, involve the DCI, let them carry out an investigation. So what will happen is that file will be put under lock and key. Then challenge the other person who is claiming land to, who is claiming ownership to your land. So if you can get their number, or find out where you can get that, because there's a manner in which you can get. If you're using the DCI, they'll be able to track the person down for you. challenge them and tell them there's this property and we see that you have a title, explain how you got it. Okay? So that if they don't have an explanation and we go back to lands and just find it was somebody was trying to change, then that file is put under lock and key and this person should be charged for fraud. Okay? Because either they were trying to defraud somebody else or they should tell us who defrauded them so that we can get to the root of the matter. So there's always a recourse in terms of law, in the sense that once you see the land registrar and you have involved the police, then becomes a DCI matter. The file is kept aside, we go to court. Let the court adjudicate and decide the land belongs to person X because the signatures have been checked, the documents have been checked and verified to actually ascertain that these documents or this land belongs to you. Yeah.
So maybe the last question is, what is the procedure of filing a land case?
So land matters vary in terms of what it is you're going to court for. It could be the person who had not finished paying for your school, the school that you sold. It could be the adverse possession. It could be the fraudulent, sale. They vary in that sense. But how do we go to court? The court that has been designated to deal with land matters specifically is the Environmental and Land Court. Now, subject to what it is, there are different pleadings or different ways we'll approach the court. But that is the best court to go to. And it's subject to the value of the land. If it's below 30 million, we should go to the magistrate court. Anything that is above 30 million, then you'd go to the high court for adjudication.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, I think there is still a lot that we need to know about land, cases. But I want to say thank you so much for coming and educating us without paying school fees.
No, it is my great pleasure.
So those people who are against the pastor because of educating their children using the sadaka should now be able to see that the sadaka has borne good fruits. Has brought good fruits, yes. And we are giving back to the community or to the people that they may benefit, because there is somebody there who has been watching and listening and didn't know. How do I go to court because of land? Somebody else has left somebody on their land and they was squatting on their land, and they don't know as the days go by, their land is just disappearing slowly or pole. But at least tonight they have an idea, and some of them would need to take action. I do not know what your situation is. If you have any questions, about land, please write to us, and we will get Milka to answer those questions. The next time that she is here, we will get her to answer those questions. So we'll be glad to receive questions from you. Thank you so very much once again, Milka, for coming and being with us. Please do not hesitate when we call you again to be with us, so that we can deal with other legal matters that affect men. Yes. But for tonight, I want to say this is your pastor and your friend for a long time, Bishop Mark Kariuki, coming to you through Open Talk. You talk or I talk. Who hear who? We hear one another. Thank you so very much. May the Lord richly bless you. May you prosper in your land. May you take caution. May you go and check on your land, so that if you find squatters there, you take action. If there's nothing you have done, you go and dig a pit latrine, and just put some mabatis there, and then the next time go and plant 2 trees, and so that the land can also know it has an owner. May the Lord richly bless you. Thank you so much. And Milka, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you very much.
The Lord bless you.
God bless you too.
Thank you.